This is the very first episode for Dowsing Rods. This is called Breaking the Ice with Dowsing Rods. You're going to see me looking off the screen just because I'm looking at my monitor behind this camera because I have like a list of things to bring up and I tend to forget everything. So this is going to be a quick rundown, and then I'm going to have probably 5 episodes just about dowsing rods. And I'm going to tell you the list and it will be posted on the description. So this one's called Break the Ice of Dowsing Rods. Episode 2 is combining EVP with dowsing rods. And you'll be using something like this. The reason why I'm giving you my list early is so that if you want to purchase your own dowsing rods and follow along, you can do it now, and then you'll have your stuff by then for the next episodes, because I'll be posting about 1 episode every Wednesday. Could be every other week. It just depends how my schedule is. So episode 3 will be diving deep into the history of dowsing. This dowsing has been around forever. It's mainly for, you probably have seen people look for water with dowsing rods. But they look a little different. Usually with old rods, it's like a Y-shaped stick. And so you hold on to the handles like this, and you walk around, and when you're detecting water, it's supposed to kind of move down like that towards the ground, and that's where the water is, which I think is really interesting. And there's a really good book that has a chapter on that, which is called Psychic Discoveries. It's an old book from, I think, 1997. They mainly cover a history in Russia. It's actually based off of Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain, but this book has so much stuff in here about paranormal. It's a really good tool for people who are researching into that kind of stuff. So episode 4 will be outdoor versus indoor dowsing. That will be a little different because I'll show how groups usually handle using dowsing rods in different environments, because sometimes you're on private property or public property and you have a lot of interruptions. It just depends on where you're at. Episode 5 would be locating items, which I think is going to be one of my favorites. So we'll have some stuff out, around and see what we'll get out of that. I'm a skeptic, but I do like, all these tools, and I don't believe everything 100%, but it's something fun to do, and I do have a lot of interesting responses that I can't, explain how it happened. That's a big thing with EVPs, especially. I get a lot of EVPs that, I was there, listening, and I could hear the sounds, but you can't, explain it. So with dowsing rods, these can be bought anywhere. You can go to your local New Age shop. Some places don't have them, they can order them for you, and the easiest way is to get them off of Amazon. That's where these are at, and then I'll list a link to that. These are like the staple to paranormal groups. The nice thing about these is that it's a cheap tool. It's about like $14. It just depends where you get it from. This one came with a cover, so I think I spent around $18 for this, and it came with a pendulum, which I haven't opened yet. See, the thing about equipment is that, like, if you're a beginner, a lot of people get overwhelmed on how they should start into, being a paranormal investigator. You could also say ghost hunter, but I like to say paranormal investigator just because you have to be a bit respectful for where you're at, especially around cemeteries. You don't want to offend people, like family that are, visiting their grave site for, a family member that passed. That's kind of why I'm kind of, I like to move away from the word ghost hunter, but it's easier to say. So with these, like, you don't need batteries. You just take these and throw them in your bag. They can't get damaged very easily. They're just, metal sticks. And it has a cylinder on the bottom that allows them to spin. And there's a little ending on it, and that's how it keeps it in place. The other thing, too, like, you probably watch a lot of ghost hunting shows. They tend to show you a lot of evidence right away. But they take a lot of time making these videos. Like, they're there the whole day, and they may get, like, maybe, one or two things. With dowsing rods, you can pretty much get an immediate response, and it's great for big groups because, say you're in a group and nothing's happening when you're trying to record, an EVP and you're waiting for something to show up. You hand this to somebody and start asking questions, and usually they respond pretty quick. And it's a way to kind of change the energy, in the space. So what I'll do is I'll show you what I mean. And another thing too, a lot of people do not investigate at their own house. I don't really care. Like, it's funny, I have not checked the history of this property, which I should sometimes, but we are close to a lot of, like, we call it Indian mounds, or they're called earthworks, and I always think that there's something, special happens around places like that. So with dowsing rods, you usually start with a yes or no question. So you have them straight up like that, and you kind of relax. You have your elbows to the side of your body. And for yes, you cross them like that. And for no questions, you want them to be out like this. Some people will state that out loud to, the spirit that they want to talk to. They'll say, I'm here, I would like to talk to you. You can communicate to me by these rods. And when I cross them, that is yes. And then when they're apart, that is no. Another thing you can do is pointing at objects or pointing to an area. So on my table I have a crystal. They're fun to collect. And I'm going to ask, so I'm going to kind of like relax and then hold these as parallel as I can so you don't feel like you're influencing the rods. And then I'm going to ask, can you point to the crystal? And there you go. So they pointed, in that direction. I like to, what I call as a reset, by putting the rods down and then lifting them back up. And that's the way to kind of show, like, I'm done with that question, and you want to move on to another question. So this one, I'll go ahead and do a yes or no question. And then I'm going to play like a little video during this too that shows my group. So we went to an Underground Railroad house. It's a historical building called the Prospect Place. And in the basement, there was I think a young girl that was buried. She was in storage that has passed away because she was sick. And it was the winter time, so they couldn't they couldn't bury her in the ground. So they had this, body down there. They also helped, hide slaves. There was also a headhunter looking for slaves that was murdered on there, which was really, a cool story. So like, that's a fun night to like look up that information and read about their history. So I think what they were doing in that video, we were asking about names of people, and we were asking yes or no questions. So I can demonstrate that. We'll see what we get when I'm here.
We promise. You can talk to us. You can come visit us. We might be able to see you on our camera. We won't hurt you. We promise. You can talk to us. You can come visit us. We might be able to see you on our camera.
Is there someone here with me? And there seems to be nothing, which is probably a good thing because this is my house. So it's a yes. Do you live here? Yes, maybe, yes. So when they hit each other like that, they don't fully cross. Sometimes that is, you can say that's a maybe, or you can just reset and try to ask the question again. Alright, so we have some answers, so that we have 2 yeses. I will demonstrate the, yes, we did the yes and no's with my voice recorder and the obelisk. So like while I'm asking questions, we are going to let this stuff run and see if any names come up. And then I will play this back during the recording, and then I also will amplify if I get any answers and put it through the video, because it might be really hard to hear it through my my camera. This recorder is pretty old. It's at least, I think, 14 years old. My other one, my Olympus, died, and that was also 14 years old. So this one's, I'm glad this one's still alive. I get sad when they stop working. This is my speaker. It amplifies the sound when I replay it. I'm going to get that all set up. And you don't want to turn it on until you plug it in, or you're going to get a loud screeching noise. So I will lay this down since my speaker's in. The other is that you may have seen the obelisk on shows like Ghost Adventures. They like to be very dramatic. They will, you probably would hear them yelling the word demon. That is one of the words on here. This only has, I think, 256 words. And it has a dictionary, and it responds to EMF and other stuff. One thing that's interesting, like this, the creator of this digital dowsing, I don't think they list like what exactly is inside of this, so I don't know what kind of other environmental sensors are in it. I do believe there is a we call it a proximity sensor, like if you it detects like vibrations. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on. And, oh, you know what? Let me turn up the sound. So I guess I can kind of show this off. So this is the one that has Wi-Fi. There's some newer ones that don't have that option. Wi-Fi is nice because you can set this thing up in a room and go sit somewhere else in the house and look at your laptop and connect directly to this, like a little, we call it a hub. Okay, so we turn on the audio. It's at 100% so we can hear it. And it does have an SD card reader, so you can save everything on it. Everything's saved on a log. You can clear your log if you want to. I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to go to ABC, which is the words. And on the top you can see there's 3 dots. The third one's kind of blinking because it's kind of sensing something. Maybe EMF. It's already getting more. It's a lot. Little dash view. And remote. list. So I'm going to let that go. And we'll start asking some questions and see what we get. Now, like, the other thing too, a lot of equipment with that are electronics, they respond to, EMF, which is, electric, or, basically electricity in your house. So if I'm running, playing with my phone, and, I just put that thing near my camera, that's going to make it go off. So you're going to get a lot of, like, false positives. When you are investigating the house, we always do something called a EMF sweep. We use a device called a K2 meter. And I'll show that in another video because I'm making this longer than I should because I keep talking about other equipment. But you'll detect where live electricity, is in the house, and it's usually, where all the outlets are at. And so you want to, like, mark that in your evidence, like there's a reason why this, equipment went off. Okay, so I'm going to ask another question. So someone mentioned there is somebody here in my house. I have a couple of devices on this table. I have a voice recorder where you can say whatever you want. And I have this device that will list words. You can try to influence it or say your name in the voice recorder, and I will play it back. Are you still here with us? Okay, you're here with us. Could you tell us who you are? You can say your name, and I'll play this back soon so I can hear your name. Or you can tell me if you still live here, or you can tell me wherever you want. Or you don't have to say anything. You can say go away. Are you a woman? It's not. I'm going to say no. Are you a man? And seems like they don't want to answer. Can you see me? Yes. Okay. Can you communicate with me? Yes. So I'll ask them, do you want to communicate with me? Yes. That seems like a big yes. So we have these two black devices on this table. Do you see these devices? Yes. Are you able to touch the device, the black one that has words on it? Yes. And so the light is going up on it. So it's on the yellow, and there's a fourth circle that's light. So that means it's getting something. And then we'll have to play the recorder back and see if we get anything. So this is pretty much the rundown of how you use dowsing rods. they're great when you're standing in the dark around, a bunch of other people, and you ask a lot of questions about the history of the place. Some people, so you have different types of people. Some people want to know everything about the place before they investigate. Others don't want to know anything. They don't want to be influenced by, the house. And that part's a little hard because, like, a lot of times you want to know, names ahead of time of who's there, and to see if you catch any names on the voice recorder or on the obelisk. The obelisk does have names on it. I don't really like it just because it doesn't have, a big dictionary. So, it's just a nice, like, supplement to have when, nothing else is going on. I've had some interesting experiences with it where it had mentioned a name when I was at the the Buxton Inn. It's in Granville, Ohio. And it listed a name right when I walked in through one of the hotel rooms. That's like a historical, or on the historical registry. And I thought that was pretty neat. And that was really the only time I, that reacted for something that expensive. I always have better reactions with voice recorders. So I will ask maybe a couple more questions or see what else I can get. Do you live here? And that's a no. It's pointing away. Could you point to the direction where you are at? Where are you? And at the table. So a lot of people will say that like crystals, like this is a quartz, they just said filter. This is a quartz crystal. A lot of people will say that this stuff draws energy. Some people will run a EMF pump. I had one, but it's broken. My friend made it for me, and I have to fix it. But what it does, it has a battery, a 9-volt battery inside, and a little, gear that runs, and it's, or not a gear, like a motor, so it's generating a little bit of EMF. So that's like a supplement you can bring with you, if you believe in that kind of stuff. I'm very open, but I'm not going to say 100% that this is going to attract spirits. It just looks cool. I like crystals. And then if it helps, it helps. So it says it doesn't live here. Supposedly it's over in this area, or there's another room beside this, behind this wall, and there's a room over there. Maybe it's pointing towards the garage. Who knows? So like when you get those kind of answers, that's when you start to do a little research, and you can do public property searches. You can look up deeds to houses. Then you start looking up news articles, and that's the nice thing about the internet. A lot of that stuff is online, instead of having to go to a library or to look up the the little film strips that you have to go through. Some places you still have to do that because a lot of that stuff isn't updated, but a lot of But at least this is a start, I'm like, okay, so there's supposedly somebody that used to be around here, but they don't live here. What happened? Maybe someone, there was one place that I was at where they had there was a news article where someone died on the street in front of the house, which, it's pretty sad. But that kind of lined up to what kind of responses we were getting at this house, and it's in Ohio. We were inside and outside in the summer doing a lot of investigations at that place. And it felt like a lot of stuff kept drawing us out to the front yard. And then when we got home, I started looking up, some more property records and found that out. But yeah, so like you can see, like dowsing rods are a great way to, as a beginner to get in. It's a great way to kind of break the ice on, what questions to ask, and you don't have to spend a lot of money on equipment. That's another thing too. Like if you're a beginner, you don't have to, throw down $100 for a camera. You can take your dowsing rods, and now you're part of that group. You're helping them out by, answering questions and seeing if you can kind of get a response on where the group should go. So you could, like a lot of times we'll have someone use these, and we'll find out that we'll ask something like, what floor should we go on? Should we go on floor, 1? And, it will say no. And then we'll say, is it floor 3? And then it will say yes. So then you're helping your group out by kind of narrowing down like where to start. Because sometimes when you're, especially if you're in like a public investigate, so like a public group, so like a lot of places will run events where you can pay like $10 and do a public ghost hunt with a group of like maybe 13 people. It just depends how big the building is. You can bring these along, and another perk is a lot of places that do the public investigations do not like flashlights or any type of light. That was a big thing for, there's a couple that were really big into EVPs. I forget their names, but they actually passed away. It was a crazy story. But they did not like you bringing your camera with you because of the LED light, or the LCD. And so I had a friend that had to like take her sock off and cover her camera because of that. Like they were okay if you taking pictures, but they didn't want any light. But maybe that, that was probably a sign that they were cheating. It was kind of interesting. Like, so a lot of people don't like light just because if you're investigating in the dark, your eyes will adjust to the dark, and then when you have a bright light, you have to kind of wait, another like 15 to 20 minutes for your eyes to readjust again. I don't really care. Like, I'm recording this video during the day. A lot of people believe you can only investigate at certain times at night. That there's, at midnight or 3 a.m. the veil to, the other world is more open. I don't know. I investigated, all times. Nighttime is creepier, so you're going to be more on alert when you're, out there doing an investigation. You may hear something that you wouldn't hear during the day just because of noise and the ambience. So I'll ask a couple more questions, and I think we'll be done with this video. And I hope... I'm sorry, I keep saying it. I ramble on a lot about this stuff because I think about like different things I should be bringing up for, especially for beginners on these kind of subjects. So I'm going to ask, do you live around here? Are you still here? I'm going to ask again. Are you still here? They're probably bored then. They left. So I don't know what that means. Usually that probably means no, but that means someone's here. I'm going to ask a weird question. Are you an animal? Are you a dog? Do you want a treat? I asked a lot of questions on that, so I'll just take that as like a unsure. Can you see my cat? Can you see Kelly? She's downstairs. Yes. Kelly's downstairs sleeping. Okay, so that's the last of my questions. I'm going to play back these recordings. Oh no, I didn't record anything. Okay. So we'll do that for the next episode. I did not hit record. But I can do a little demonstration though, since maybe there's something's here. Or something is here. So I'm going to hit record. Oh. Okay, I can't do that with the thing, and I gotta put it in while I play it. Is there anybody here? You said you don't live here. Where are you? Okay, I'm going to turn this off in 5 seconds. So this is something called EVP burst. You do a short recording. So I only did like less, than a minute. And then you will play it back. So make sure I got this in the right one. Is there anybody here? You said you don't live here. Where are you? Okay, I'm going to turn this off in 5 seconds. There was something right there at the very end. So I will go through this again through my program called Audacity. It's a free program. And then what I'll do is I'll go to the very end of that where I heard something weird, and I'll play it and then amplify it and see if there's anything, interesting with that. You know what though? I have another recording in here. Was that? No, that was the other one. Thanks for watching this video. This is the very first one about dowsing rods. And if you want to pick some up, this is what they look like. Just 2 metal sticks. And for extra credit, a voice recorder. I'm going to recommend spending a little bit of money on one though, like at least $20. There are some that you can charge that do not take batteries. Those are not very. You can lose data by accident because they're cheap recorders. I have a couple that are stored away. I use those when I'm on an investigation and I put them somewhere weird where I may forget them. That's for like if I'm recording a room for a very long time. I haven't lost one yet, but there was a time where one of them just did not save any of the data. So stuff like this I think was $80. I have an Olympus one that's $45. That's usually what you're gonna spend on a nice voice recorder that you can kind of depend on. Anything cheaper, you are at risk of losing your recordings.